Hey guys, welcome back to Honkai Star Rail. In today's video, I wanted to talk underrated units in the game. Now, this is going to be underrated by either me in my original tier list and my original testing of the game, and now that I have more knowledge, I wanted to bring you guys up to date on what they have. Also, just some of these units are just generally, from what I see on Discords, in Reddit and stuff like that, a little bit underrated, and I just want to put them on your radar. Now, I'm not saying these are the best heroes. I will be doing tier lists and stuff like that, updated tier lists in the future, but these are just three units that I really wanted to emphasize and just let you guys know to keep an eye out for in the game, and don't get put down by them because, you know, people say they're bad. Now, on the other hand of this, I am just one person. I think it's great for you guys to go out there, see other content creators, look at Reddit, look at Discords, get as many opinions as you can, and then make your own decision from there. Now, I will be doing a ton of testing when the game launches, as well as the testing that I did from the beta. So I'm going to shut up now and let's get into it. So the first one we are going to look at is going to be Arlan. So this guy, I rated him low early on, and I'm not rating him high purely because of his damage. The thing that I never realized, because I didn't manage to pull him, and I was basically making my predictions of him based on what I could read in his skills, but there is one massively key thing in his skill descriptions that is left out, and that is the fact that his skill, so his skill that costs, normally for characters they cost skill points, his doesn't cost any skill points. It costs HP instead of skill points. So that is just night and day difference for a character. What this does for him is, if you want to have him as like a secondary DPS in your team, even though he can do damage of a main DPS, you could do that quite easily because he takes 0 skill points from the team. Sure, he's not going to regenerate them when he's using his skill, but it doesn't matter. He just has free skills, and that is the biggest thing there is. Now, the next thing I want to put in, and I can show you that here actually, because we got these on Billy. So if you look at his skill, on this guy. So I've been watching a lot of the CN players and what they've been doing. I'll leave a link to this in the description. But you can see here, he's on his Q. Now, the guy clicks it really quickly. He clicks E twice really quickly. But you can see if he uses his Q, he would go to 4. And then for a normal character, if they use their E, they would go down to 2 skill points. However, if we watch this, he'll do it really quickly. Unfortunately, it's super quick. You can see he double clicked, but he is still on 3 skill points. So he didn't actually lose any skill points with that usage of the skill. So that is something that gets me super excited about Arlan, and that is the 0 skill cost. Now, when we look at his high damage scaling, there's 2 things we want to look at here. Now, he's not like going to be like the top damage dealer in the game or anything like that. And when we look at, for instance, his talent, increases Arlan's damage dealt for every percentage of HP below max HP he is. This one here is at max Eidolon skills, so that's like maxing out your skills in your trace and then getting the Eidolon upgrades for skills as well. This one is at max trace just only, so that's like more realistic free to play option. But for this to get an extra 80%, he's not the kind of character that you really want to. I don't think at this stage of the game with the characters we have, you don't really want to feather him around 1% HP. It's just not a safe way to play. So in general, I feel like you kind of want to, in playing him, ignore this and just try and keep him alive as such. The other thing to consider is these percentages. It's not like you just go into battle and it's like, okay, the damage he would have done is now increased by 80%. Anything that has the damage increase multiplier, those multipliers get added together, whether it be from a light cone, whether it be from gear, when you've got like, you know, lightning damage increase, all those things, they get added together. So if he already has other damage multipliers of say 80%, let's just go with this 80%. If he's already got other damage multipliers from gear and other stuff of 80%, then getting another 80% brings it up to 160, which doesn't actually give your total damage because those are additive, not multiplicative, if that makes sense. So you're not actually losing out on a raw 80% extra of what his base damage was, if that kind of makes sense. Let me know if you want me to go more deep into this type of stuff, but essentially what I'm trying to say here is it's not about his raw damage from this. This is nice, and it's situationally when it works, it's really nice, but you still want to just keep him alive. But what I'm talking about is his multipliers are actually really nice. This 352 multiplier, when we compare it to someone like Zila, now Zila does get a speed buff, but at 352 single target on that, if we look at Zila, and we check out her multiplier, her max multiplier is 242. So that's a pretty decent 242 versus 352, both single target, and this one has 0 skill cost, is quite nice in my opinion. Now, this one's a bit lower than something like Zilla's ultimate, but that's because this is a cleave ultimate. And if we go back to my sheet here, when I say cleave with ultimate as one of my positives for him, that is because this is really nice. A lot of the robot type units and stuff like that, they summon like the guy that summoned the hands and stuff like that. The units that they summon, you really want to kill quickly, and being able to know the fight and then save this ultimate to just cleave those things down instantly is really nice. On top of that, the other thing that I mentioned here is that he's got a great shop light cone. So if I bounce over here, let's just jump and take a look at the light cone that is available from Herta's shop that he can get, and it is this one. So this one is like my favorite Herta's shop light cone. I just think it has the best effects. When we look at the hunt one, I feel like the 4-star is very comparable, and you know, 4-star you get the upgrades as well, and then the preservation one I'm just not a massive fan of. So when we look at Herta's shop, which I'll talk more about this in the future, I think this is the ideal one. So you can, if you max it out, even at base, even if you just get to level 1 to 1 upgrade 10%, let's just do it for clean numbers, you can get up to a 40% attack increase, and then when you break an enemy, you get like 24% damage increase. So this once again is additive with his passive as well, but you get this extra damage increase as well. And for him to break enemies, like I said, in those situations, in a lot of boss fights that summon those lightning weak adds, he can easily just save his ultimate, easy clap them, break them, and he's getting these extra buffs as well. So I just think his ultimate is really solid in the way it plays, along with, like I said, the light cones and stuff that he can get. But in general, I just think his kit is really well rounded. And originally, because I don't think his single target damage is like the best, but originally I thought because he's sacrificing HP, he's going to be draining skills, he's not the greatest. But that fact that he has 0 skill cost tied into his skill is, like I said, a night and day difference for him. It makes him an amazing, amazing unit. It makes him really well paired with Bronya, because Bronya is a support. Most supports, if we look at something like Ting, she really only needs to use her her skill every 2 to 3 turns, depending if the ally she's buffing uses an ultimate or not. So she's every 2 to 3 turns. Whereas something like if we look at Bronya really wants to use her skill every turn. You can cheese around with it with Bronya. We'll talk about it in the future, but him allowing Bronya to have the priority in your team of using skill points, because when I do team building, I'm going to emphasize skill points a lot, because if you don't balance out skill point usage and generation, you're going to be kind of boned. But the fact that he lets Bronya take all the skill points so that she can buff him is absolutely amazing. So like I said, Arlan, I didn't rate him highly before. The biggest thing that made me change my mind on him was the 0 cost skill. He would still be okay without that, but he definitely wouldn't be anything I'd be raving about. But the 0 cost skill completely changed my mind on him, and like I said, it's something that's not actually stated in his abilities, so definitely something to keep your eye on. On top of that, in the beta, he was available from the summon store, so as you summon, you get a currency. He was one of the ones in there. When the game comes to release, it's up to you. It's a gamble on whether you want to get a character specific or whether you want to buy some summons and take your luck at that, but I think it's a great option to have in the shop anyway, because he's just an all-round great unit in my opinion for that skill efficiency more than anything else. Okay, so next up we have Gepard. Now, I feel like Gepard, especially early on, was very, very highly underrated. A common complaint I see from him is that, you know, he's trying to be a tank, but he can't tank. One thing I want to take note of is that being a preservation, all characters have like a base taunt value, and preservation is around 150, I think it is. Hunt is like 75. I believe supports are around 100 and destruction's around 125. So those are sort of spread, but like basically he has double the taunt value of something like a hunt unit. So one, he has high base taunt. The next thing is, if we look at his traces, higher chance to be attacked by enemies. I don't know the exact value this gives, but I just think those two things combined, along with the fact that he does shield the entire team, means that the majority of the time you should be getting him attacked when he's on the team. And if not, if they're just doing some AoE, you've got a big chunky shield that you can provide to your teammates. I just think it's incredibly valuable. So that's why I said the high taunt is something that I just wanted to mention, along with the fact that we're just going to skip one here for a sec. The low energy cost, he's got 100 energy. Now, I think that the lowest energy cost in the game is 80, but I think the next lowest in the game is 100. So it's a very reasonable energy cost. On top of that, when you are getting attacked, you are generating energy. I don't know exact values of that yet. I will make more in-depth guides on that type of stuff when I figure it out. But when you're attacked, he's got high taunt value, meaning he's going to get attacked more, meaning he's going to generate more energy, which means you can, if you want to, play him as more of a basic attack spam unit and have him as a skill point generator. Like I said, skill points are very important. And then he can still get his shield off fairly frequently, which is just an all-round plus. But then the thing, like I said, the large AoE shield, dude, I typo, my bad. The large AoE shield, the large AoE shield is on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, 3-turn duration. The 3-turn duration is a really nice thing. If it was 2-turn, it would feel a bit meh, but 3-turn is really nice. So you've got that lingering effect from it, and it won't just disappear and you're just like, what? And it is a really large shield. When you compare the value that this can have compared to something like, Fire MC, this is just a much chunkier shield, and it's going to save you from some of those big burst AoEs that some of the bosses have that would otherwise like shred shields that the Fire MC brings. So I really do like that. And like I said, he does have that high taunt, getting more attacks, generating more energy with the low energy ultimate, meaning he can get it up more frequently than other units can use their ultimate. Then we have the on-demand freeze. Now, I originally rated him low, and I thought at Eidolon 1, because if we look at his Eidolon 1, base chance for him to freeze is increased by 35%. Now, I'm still trying to figure this out 100%, but as I've seen it from the formula, this game works different to other turn-based gacha games that I've played. I don't know how Genshin works, but basically, in other turn-based gacha games that I've played, you have an activation chance, let's say. And when you use that skill, it does a dice roll on the activation chance. So if you roll and you get that 65% at the activation, then after the activation check, it goes into resistance accuracy check, where it's like you have an accuracy, your enemy has a resistance, and then you have to win that dice roll to actually apply the freeze. However, as I'm understanding it, and I will update you guys as I find out more, but if you run him on enough accuracy, the formula for this doesn't work that way, and it's all just one calculation. And if you have enough effect accuracy, you can like surpass what the base chance is, and you can actually bring this up to 100% freeze chance. Now, that's the same with something like March 7th, which can make her super effective. So if this does change, I'll leave anything in the pinned comment, but that's how I'm understanding this game to work at the moment, which makes this so much better. You now have a skill that you don't have to use all the time, but you have an on-demand freeze that you can just slap around whenever. Now, when I'm rating these heroes, like I said, I don't like to look at Eidolons at all, but if we want to just creep down here and look at that, we do have that after they become unfrozen, their speed's reduced by 20% for 1 turn. Now, that is the same as if we look at something like Welt. Both of his effects are both 10%, so you're actually getting like a Welt level of slow just after a guaranteed freeze on an enemy. I think it's pretty solid all round. Like I said, I'm not judging him based on Eidolons. That's just something I wanted to add in there. If you do, 10 years down the road, get to him to 2 Eidolon. But in general, this freeze is so much better now that I'm understanding more the way the mechanics of the game work, because you can actually reliably use it. Besides that, I thought it was going to be too scary to use it without him at 1 Eidolon, but this is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, just rounding out Gepard, I think he's an absolutely fantastic unit. Going to be really key for survival, and like from what I've seen on, if we look at some of the CN players, the ones that have cleared floor 10 of Chaos Memory, they are using Gepard just for that strong mitigation, essentially is the main reason. Really strong mitigation if you bring him with some really cracked DPS to help them survive, but that is Gepard. And the third unit on my list is going to be Clara. Now, she's the one with Gepard that I always see people rating as like the lowest on the base 5-star units. If you want to know my personal lowest priority on the base units, it would have to be Himiko, unfortunately, just because there's no game mode that really allows her to shine, but we'll cover that in another video. But Clara, I think we're going to see Clara evolve as the game goes on, and she's going to be an absolute beast. Now, I have a few thoughts on Clara. One, her AoE damage is absolutely insane. Now, it is conditional that enemies are attacking her, but when she's going to revenge, especially after she uses an ultimate, and her revenge is going to deal even more damage, and it's going to deal that splash damage, it's crazy. Now, on top of that, if you are using her skill and enemies keep attacking her, her skill can do really high AoE damage, but the one downfall is that it does remove the mark, so you have to rely on enemies hitting her. Now, she becomes a different story if we look at Eidolon 1. Once again, I'm not rating her with Eidolon 1, but just something to note. Using her skill will not remove the mark, meaning she can just keep that damage and not have to worry about reapplying the mark. But what I'm looking at here when I'm rating her, and my thoughts around her, is high AoE damage is just one way you can use her. The other way you can use her is a strong basic skill user that can run at very high speeds. So I'm going to do these two in one hit and talk about these 2 points in one hit, because being a strong basic skill user means she can be a fantastic sub DPS, and she can really just slot into a team. And when I spoke about Arlan, how he doesn't use skill points, if she's your sub DPS and you're just using basic attacks, she's generating skill points, which is fantastic. So why I say this, and can run at high speeds. So units like Zila fall into, the issue is they always want to use their skill, because your main DPS is normally going to be the one that wants to use the skill because they want to deal the damage. But when you're like that, and you also have Zila's high base speed, and then you have a speed buff on your skill, you're cycling through turns so quick as a main DPS. And then Zila also has her proc for an additional skill that you can actually deplete skill points way too quickly. And the thing about Clara is, like I said, if you're using her as a basic skill user, meaning you're not too stressed about that AoE from her skill, and what you're really trying to do is make her revenge, because when she does use her revenge skill, it generates an extra 10 energy. And as you can see, she's got 110 energy max. So you really want her to be able to get those revenges off. You can build her super high speed so that she can get her turns more and use those basic skills more to generate even more energy. And then all she becomes is a battery for the team that's going to keep generating more skill points for your team. And then on top of that, when she uses her ultimate, because you're building her fast, she's getting more basics, she's getting her energy faster because she's revenging as well. She's going to get to her ultimate faster, which means in her ultimate, when we take a look at this, similar to Gepard, but his is on a trace, it's going to increase her chance of being attacked, which goes into my final point, which is high taunt and tanky. So the fact that she's going to increase her chance of being attacked means that she's more likely to get her revenge, meaning she's more likely to generate more energy throughout the battle, especially if there's multiple targets, but it still applies even if there is only one. So she becomes this insane battery for taunt, like basically taking aggro away from your allies and generating skill points, and just being tanky and able to survive while still dishing out very, very reasonable damage. And also on top of that, after her ult, if you are running her with something like March 7th, being that March is from the preservation tree, so if we go to something like March, where's March? Where is she? There she is. But because she's from preservation, she has high base taunt, but she also has her shield that can put higher taunt value onto Clara. But in the off case that, March is on the team with Clara and March gets attacked, after Clara's used her ultimate and she's in that enhanced phase, she will still revenge if March does take the odd attack. So I just think Clara in general is going to be an absolutely phenomenal unit, and I think she's one of those units that's going to evolve and get better with time as people find out better strategies, and also we get more support units that can assist her in the way she wants to play. But in general, I think the way to play her is, like I said, she can deal high AoE damage spamming her skill, but I really like the use of her as a strong basic skill user and just a sub DPS, so she'll still deal okay DPS, but she becomes just a battery for your team whilst also taunting and taking aggro away from your team, and she does get super tanky. So those are the top 3 in my mind underrated units. Now, they're not the best units in the game. Like I said, I will do tier lists and stuff like that. Let me know what you guys think, but I've just seen like either myself or just general in the community, these units getting rated lowly, and I just think they needed a bit of talking about, and also they're just units that I like talking about because they're pretty cool in their kits. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.